Welcome to the Strong, Single and Human podcast, a real look at single parenting, how to navigate the ups and downs of life with kids on your own while keeping sane. We cover all manner of subjects from domestic violence, dealing with childhood trauma, through to fussy eaters and how to help your kids become resilient. I'm your host, Claire Martin. Welcome. This week's guest, Babs Cheung, is a uniquely skilled individual with a diverse background in astrology and business-related fields. Her professional journey combines a deep understanding of social media marketing, content development, creative non-fiction writing, and growth strategies with her expertise in astrology. Now, Babs also extends her astrology insights to enthusiasts through her Parenting with Astrology, an insight into your child and how you can relate to each other based on your natal charts. She firmly believes that aligning with your child and understanding what they do and why by the stars can unlock a unique edge in helping your child and you personally grow. And this week, Babs has taken mine and my son's charts and is going to give us an insight into why my son can sometimes drive me crazy. This is the Strong, Single and Human podcast.
Hi, Babs Cheung. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Claire. It's so great to be here.
Oh, look, I need you to sort of tell us about you and who you are and why you do what you do, right? But I'm so excited about this podcast. And we'll get into that a bit later. But first of all, Babs, who are you? And why do you do what you do? That sounds really cryptic, doesn't it?
Big questions. I'm into it. So I'm Babs Cheung. I'm an astrologer, and I help people figure out what the F is going on at any given point in time. And usually it has to do with some planetary alignment, or it depends on the people in the room, even.
Right, blimey. Mm-hmm. And why did you start doing this?
So it's more of how it found me. I think astrology chose me. I started when I was 11.
Wow.
I was quite naughty, actually. I was questioning a lot of the Bible at the time, and I was in Sunday school and, Catholicism in general. And what do naughty students, what happens to them when they question the Bible? They get sent to detention. And to age myself proper, I had detention, and the computer, like the very first computer that ever came out, was there in that office. So it was left unattended, no password protection, because that's how old these computers first were, if you recall. Of course, the very first thing that a prepubescent girl looks up is very different from a prepubescent boy, what he might look up. But the next best taboo thing would be astrology. So ever since then, I was hooked, and I went to detention on purpose. And
just to use the computer.
Just to really use the computer and understand astrology better. There might have been a better way to do this, but at the time, computers were expensive, so this is the way to do it.
Oh, yeah. No, don't even go there. I know what you mean. Now, what are we going to do today, right? So I'm pretty excited, right? Because when I initially spoke to Babs, I gave her my details and my son's details. So I'm a little bit nervous, a lot nervous, because both me and my son are Libras, and we clash, right? And my dad is a Libra too, right? So we don't even want to go down that avenue, right? And my mum, good old Aries, is in the middle trying to be the pacifier between all of these blooming hot-headed. Are we air signs? We're air signs, aren't we? Yeah. So, Babs said to me when we spoke that she was going to do a little analysis on me and Oscar, my son, and then to actually then talk about like how this can help people and go into the boring stuff, because I'm like, I want the interesting stuff. It's not boring and it won't be boring. But so what have you done, Babs? What have you found out?
Yes, what have I done? Okay, so I ran up your chart with Oscar and yours, and yes, it's interesting that you say hot-headed. I don't think Libra's hot-headed, generally speaking, because your
We
air
like
sign
balance.
is actually exactly very diplomatic. And so, so going into this, understand that compatibility, as you might understand it, is very simplistic. And I'm telling you from, just in the most polite way possible, it's rubbish. The things out there is just not true. There's no way you can simplistically say that if someone has an Aries sun sign and someone is a Libra, opposites attract, therefore they're going to be great, right? There's no way to know that at all. It's only one point of information as opposed to a whole natal chart that has 13 planets and so much more information involved.
And if you spoke to my mum, she would go, no, it was no plain sailing. And if they say that Libras and Aries get on and are like a really good match, there have been times where my mum and dad have gone, no, this isn't a good match. We need to sort stuff out. So it's okay. It's good. No, okay, that's fair enough. So what you're saying is the stuff out there that's in the media, that's all the general stuff. It's general, right? It doesn't, you need to drill down into the detail, because I don't know how many Aries or Libras are in the world. Probably lots. I wish there were more Libras, because we like balance, right? So hopefully it would be a more balanced planet. But I don't know how many there are, right? But you can't say that as a Libra, we're all the same, because we're not.
Exactly. Yeah. And on top of that, just on the basis of astrology itself, there are no moments that are the same, because when we're born, it's very distinctive, and therefore each moment is different and makes us individuals within that regard. So it's important here to not trust the general hype. Astrology can be fun. It can be, great to pass around memes and share and connect in that way. But when you're looking deeper into how it can solve problems or help you figure out a strategy in dealing with challenges, it is best to really hunker down into the fine details and the weeds of things. So moving on to your
let's get into the weeds then.
Yes.
Let's delve into the weeds.
The way I describe compatibility is actually not a binary yes or no, but rather it's a form of activation. And an activation is a very neutral word for the term trigger. We don't use the word trigger anymore because it usually has a negative association with trauma. And an activation is neutral in that when you're in a room with somebody and it's just you two, there's certain parts that person brings out of you, and there's certain parts that you bring out of another person. And when it comes to parent and child dynamics, that's happening 24/7 as you're dealing with your child, or they are also, dealing with you. And this is not just children that are young or small. It could be also our adult parents and adult children. So as I look at this comparative chart, what you have, as I'm looking at the circular chart, you have multiple grand air trines, which means that you have, or is it air? Yep, it's air, which means that you're actually an excellent communicator to the point where words flow rather easily for you. And that if I'm not mistaken, it makes sense that you have a podcast, but I don't know what you do for a living, aside from that, but it seems like
I'm a project program manager. So I basically manage things. I manage people and get things delivered for a whole manner of companies and situations and stuff. So talking is a lot of my day. Getting people to do things, negotiating, just communicating upwards to management, downwards to other people. So sitting in the middle, basically. and
Yes.
communicating to everyone. But I love podcasting
Everyone.
more than I love that element.
Of
But yeah.
course.
Oh,
There's a
and I would
huge-
prefer to talk.
Of course.
Yeah.
And with that, you have ability to kind of present on the fly if you needed to. I don't know if in school you ever were the kind of person that maybe was thrusted into a presentation role and you're like, well, I don't want to do it, but I'll wing it. And you can.
Yeah, I get really nervous if I'm in that situation. But yeah,
It's
whatever.
fine. It's fine. Yeah. And so with that, it tells me, and you also then have a stellium in Libra as well. Have you ever looked at your own chart, by the way?
No, this is the first time. So
Okay.
we're learning lots. I'm sorry, listeners. This is a little bit selfish of me, but but I believe you me, there are things that will bring it back to the listeners.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Would you like a visual, by the way?
Oh, yeah, I don't mind.
Yeah. Okay. That way you can describe to listeners what you're seeing.
Yeah, wow.
Okay. So
we're doing it. Oh my gosh. Okay, wow. There's lots of lines and it's a big circle. That's all I can understand at the moment.
yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes. The best way to describe it is with like a clock system. So you have like 9 o'clock here, you have 3 o'clock here, you have 12 o'clock somewhere here. Technically it's here because it's shifted a little bit. And then you have 6 o'clock here. So it's like that's the best way to look at it in terms of a clock. So here, as I mentioned, you have multiple grand trines, and it's multiple because she has a stellium in Libra, and a stellium is pretty much 4 or more planets within, or in this case, it's technically 3, but I still count it as a stellium. It's basically a very concentrated amount of planets in one single zodiac sign. So she has 3, and they're all basically conjunct, meaning that they're within 5 degrees or 10 degrees of each other. So she has the sun here, Venus and Uranus in Libra, and all of these planets have communications, very clear communications in a trine aspect, meaning that it's 60 degrees apart, to Saturn, which is in Gemini, and Mars and the North Node, which is in Aquarius. So together, this makes a grand air trine, and you have about 3 of them at once. So this whole entire team is the backbone of what allows you to effortlessly communicate with people generally. So your point gets across very clearly. I don't think you have to really, maybe with the case of your son, you might, but I don't think you really ever have to go back and repeat yourself. It's very clear otherwise. Wow,
because sometimes I don't feel very clear, but fair enough. That's okay. Yes. Work in progress.
Exactly. And so when we think about the activation piece, we know that your son is Libra, a Libra sun at the very least. So when he's in the room, and mind you, when children oftentimes before they hit 14 are generally expressing themselves the most, and so they are most leaning on their sun sign personality. So if he's a Libra, he's the most self-expressed as a Libra. And so with that, he activates wherever Libra is in your chart. In this case, it's 3rd house communication. And because you have so many planets here, and because it's, activating this grand air trine, there's just constant chatter between you two.
Oh my God.
Like you probably don't shut up.
Yeah, no, it's the only time we shut up is like when he's on his iPad or when we're watching a movie, but sometimes we're not even, we do, and his teachers have always said, like, he's never had a problem communicating. So, Yes.
And then, and so let's go ahead and go down to his chart. So here, the chart is very different.
I'm looking at a very different chart with lots and lots of red and blue lines and triangles and fluff all over it. So it's like, oh my God. But yeah.
Yes, it's highly concentrated. So interestingly enough, most of the houses in Claire's chart is empty, which isn't bad or good. It just means that you have very calm moments where life is not directly activating you in a way to perform and to grow into all those things. However, your sun has lots of planets kind of scattered all throughout the zodiacal year, which means that he has a lot more pulls and activation points than you would. And so as a parent that now knows that, let's say, for whatever reason, Taurus season, which is roughly spring. So it's like April 20th to Leo season, which is roughly July 20th or so, 23rd. So from that spring to the summer, there's actually maybe more calm. It's a calmer time, would you say?
Okay. So being in the southern hemisphere in Australia, that's more our winter. So yes, I probably would say, although he's active in soccer and footy and stuff. But yes, calmer him probably in the winter. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, winter. Okay, sorry, excuse me.
No, you're okay.
So
southern
that
hemisphere.
is something to look out for sure. It means that during this time, you can expect for yourself as a parent to have a little bit more of a break in a sense of not much going around, not much in ways of support. And then if we kind of like were to compare it to your chart, you also have an empty Taurus season, which is great because it tells me that you two might really be well supported to take a vacation during that April month.
Okay,
or that like mid-April to mid-May. That would be the best time for you both to take a vacation and really get on the same footing and refresh and everything. You could also take it, honestly, that whole entire winter part because you also don't have planets. I mean, you have one planet in Gemini season, which is roughly at the beginning of June. You have like a little bit of activity going on here, but then well after the middle of June, all the way to the end of Leo season, which is again like August 23rd or so. That's also a great time for you to take a vacation with him because you both have a beautiful, what I call peacetime, where
so follow the sun.
There's no drama.
We'll go somewhere
very
warm.
little drama. Exactly. Yeah. So that could be something that you could do to get on the same footing. I will say though, for him, his busy times definitely begin. And when does the school year begin again after winter? Roughly?
So our school year begins in January. So our school, February really. They get part of December off and the whole of January off. And then it starts in February and goes all the way through again back to December. So January is the start of the school year here. If he was in the UK, the start of the school year would be September.
Okay, interesting. So actually his busy season lines up with the UK student calendar year. Which is interesting that he's not there right now. That he's in. Wait, are you in the UK or are you in Melbourne?
No, I'm English, which is fascinating. I'm English, and we live in Australia.
Okay,
crazy things that we do, but
Okay, well, in that case, anyway, for him, basically, as soon as it's Virgo season, he's activated. There's probably so much support that's necessary for him. And on part you, because you're his major support, starting Virgo season. And Virgo season is right on August 23rd, 24th generally. And it's just nonstop, like putting out his fires.
Well, that's okay, because he needs to be busy then, because he's got to be busy getting his mum a birthday present.
Exactly.
So
there is that. And then as it goes on, Libra season, he also is a Libra. Interesting. So you are, you're early Libra and he's at the end of Libra. So that's pretty interesting.
Yes.
Okay. And so, so it's busy season. pretty busy season, a small break, and then right around Scorpio season, which is roughly October 23rd to November 23rd. So that's like spooky season. He gets activated once more, and it might be a very emotional time for him, actually.
Oh, okay. He's very much Halloween, and then we've got loads of other things that go on. So he loves Halloween.
Yes, it's prime. So with moon activations in the seventh house, because you two are so close, and any other relationship he might have that's one-to-one, there might be a lot of emotionality to it. It could be good or bad depending, but these are markers of intense emotional relationships. So he could be making a lot of friends at this time, but it's going to be a deepening of friendships. Or he could be saying, I don't really like anyone, and not having friends for a whole year. That happens sometimes too. It's just important to note that if during Halloween season that he's being especially moody, just let him know that you're here and you'll always be there for him, kind of thing. It's a very supportive role. And in general, I would say what else is pretty interesting about this is that he has a lot of, so during, let's see, it's like flipped in my brain because I have to remember your southern hemisphere. But right around January, as the school year begins, he has a major activation point. And what that means is that because January is roughly it's like December 23rd to January 23rd, essentially. So that's right at the start of the school year. He's always transforming right at that start of the school year. And this piece here is connected to all these others. If you see this line, it's actually the point where it conjoins. So this is the one piece that brings apart and activates the whole entire chart. So the new year and the new school year has a very transformative effect on him.
Wow.
And this might be a point in which you'll want to, watch out for any turbulence that might occur.
Yeah. And it's a very important time because it's when they go up a grade, they get new teachers, they're in different classes, they're starting new learning. I could see that as being a bit challenging for any child, but now especially my child.
Especially, yes. And then on top of that, it's in the ninth house, and the ninth house is the house of higher learning and education. So I wouldn't be surprised if your son was actually gifted, like placed in honors or placed in like an alternative learning type of module, or if he was like specifically, he had a specific talent that a teacher saw in him, and that they asked you, like, would you like to put him in a specialized, case study or something?
Wow.
That's just something to look out for, because usually when it comes to gifted children, they might act rebelliously or tumultuously because they might be bored, or because they don't like their classmates, or because they're sensitive, or because they don't agree with the teacher. So if that's the case, you kind of want to really ask the right questions, get to the heart of why it is that this child's acting out. And usually, because they are children and still learning the ways of how to express themselves, you being an expert communicator with your triple grand trines, I have no doubt that you'll be able to ask the right questions to get to the truth of what's going on.
God, hopefully. And when you described all of those things, I went, yep, that's my child, all of them, every single one. So that's interesting. Wow.
Yes. And so as the years progress, because he'll get older and older, the ninth house becomes more prominent because it becomes higher learning. Right now, he's still young. So it's all about that basic learning. You're still learning how the world works, etc. But especially when he's past 14 and a teenager and really trying to rebel at that point, this will be highly important to just keep track of, to understand that, okay, it's January, take a deep breath. At least for you, you got nothing kind of tapping you on the shoulder at this time. So you have all the capacity to support him in the best way. So this actually worked out really well. Imagine you had planets here, that'd be nuts. You might need to delegate to another if that was the case, but you don't. And then after that point is done, this is going to be like a very intense week, maybe. I can even give you the date for that because I have an ephemeris here. So 13 degrees Pluto. I'm right now looking up an ephemeris, which is a table of information that tells us exactly where planets are in the sky at any given time. It can backdate all the way to the 1900s, and it can go all the way up to 2400.
My God.
Yes, so this is one of the tools that astrologers use, or astrology students use to really figure out where things are in the sky. So in this case, we're looking at a sun sign transit, and that is, we're looking for, what do we want again? We want to know 13 degrees Capricorn. So what we're doing is basically lining it up. 13 degrees Capricorn happens on January 4th. So
Wow.
I would write down January 4th as the beginning period for this transformative time for your sun.
God, and how long does it last? How long am I going to be worrying about this?
And so it does vary year by year, but for the most part, it's about a week or so. So I would even say I'd stretch it back to even December 30th.
Yeah.
Stretch just a little bit back. You want to give yourself some buffer to like really know, okay, these are the big games. And then right around January 4th, that's like the moment, and then 5 degrees more be like January 9th. So it's roughly, a week or so.
Blimey.
Yep.
Well, that could be an interesting time.
And you can kind of, retro date it back. You can look back to times of that week and to see like how Oscar has been and like what crazy events happened or not crazy events, because sometimes it could be quiet and then it might come up later, and he'll say like, oh, remember back on January 4th, I didn't tell you XYZ. And it's like, oh, that date still rings true. We just didn't address it until later.
No, blimey.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And so this is an incredibly informative reading to help really understand and support your children in a time of their biggest need. And sometimes it might happen. In your case, it didn't happen, thankfully. But sometimes it happens that we as parents, adults, we have other things going on in our lives. And so if we're also simultaneously going through a very difficult situation while also trying to support our children, things get sticky. You now know, like, okay, I can't be there when my arm's on fire. I have to I need to delegate. And so this is why a reading like this is so helpful, because it gives you an idea of your busiest times. So in this case, Libra season, or a little bit of Virgo season, you have a bit of overlap here, especially with his Virgo season.
Yeah.
You'll be able to call in your parents, for example, and say, hey, can you, be in charge of pickup duties, or can you, watch him for a bit while I tend to what I need to do. And it's good to have that.
Does this read, so is this a reading for next year?
So this is actually cyclical. So it repeats year after year. Yeah.
Okay, that was what I was going to say. So that was what is it just a year, or does it repeat and go? So will his, and people who are listening to this won't be able to see this, but I'm looking at it. He's got lots and lots of lines over his profile, for want of a better word. Will those lines move? Or is this his actual, this is his busyness?
Yes, this is his chart. It is busy. Wow. It's a busy time.
It is a busy chart. Yes. He's just busy all year round.
Yeah.
Apart from in the winter.
Wow.
He's got like 3 months where he's not busy, and then the rest of it is really busy. Well, I don't know if that bodes well for him or not. I mean, I'm pretty chilled. My chart is pretty chilled.
He has actually, if you really count the number of empty houses, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he has 5 moments within the year where things are not busy. And so being able to work in these like mini trips, mini vacations, mini you and him days where you can reconnect will be vital, because it helps him understand that, okay, I can look forward to the stability of a winter vacation with mom. I can look forward to a mini trip with whoever's available in leading up to the new year and the new school year, even like especially this piece here. And then even if do you have a break like right around the end of, I'm trying to remember the dates here. Do you have a break right around the end of March 23rd?
Oh, yeah, there would be like school Easter break or whatever. It varies. Okay, it varies, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that actually lines up really well. So then maybe he'll know that, okay, there's some downtime during Easter break.
Yeah.
Which is helpful. So really, when I look at this chart, I'm like, wow, Oscar is really attuned to the school year. And it makes sense because Pluto here is the fulcrum, the major point in which all these different planets are connected, and it's in the 9th house. So he's going to be a very academic, studious person, I would say. Maybe he won't go into academia, but he'll definitely have a lot of ties to school and the school structure and curriculum, I would think. And so in knowing this, making sure that he's at the right school, taking the right classes, that you talk about which classes are the best fit for him and his grade and his aptitude. All this will be tremendously helpful for him.
Yeah, no, definitely. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's handy. So that's covering off and me, well, I've got so many months free. It's unbelievable, really. So many.
Very jealous.
Oh my gosh. So I'm calm most of the year. I don't feel calm. But anyway, that's okay. That's cool.
Well, the reason you don't feel calm is because when one planet is activated, let's say we just finished Scorpio season.
Yeah.
So, and now I'm
going into my calm period now.
We're going into the calm period. I think you just went through such a season where, your emotionality was, activated. The way that I don't know if you're an artist in any sort of way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I am. I paint.
Okay. Painting.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That was also called and activated. So maybe you got a lot of downloads and like inspiration.
I got a couple of paintings finished because they've been sitting in my lounge for I don't know how long. And I got a couple of paintings finished. So I've got to get them up on the wall and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And then congratulations. That's great. And so what happens is that when these planets are activated, because of its connection to this planet, and then all of these are connected to this planet, basically every single time you hit an activation, your whole entire chart gets illuminated, gets activated. Whereas with your sun, there's only one point in which everything gets totally activated.
Yeah.
Everything here is like, it's like snippets. Like if it was this placement in Saturn, it would call upon one person, Neptune in Pisces, and it would call on, Venus in Virgo, and then maybe call on this like 3 degrees Mercury. But that's only 4 placements, whereas
January,
it's everything. It's everything possible. So every time you're activated, all of you is activated. And that could be why it just always feels busy. But in actuality, if you really compare different months, like we're walking through, you'll notice it is more calm.
Yeah. Happy days. I'm up for a calm period, which is great, which is awesome. Okay.
Yes.
So that's cool. So how do parents use this? How have you used this with parents? So it's interesting for me because it seems as though Christmas and the New Year for my son is a very massive emotional point for him. In every way, touches everything, right? Physically, emotionally, everything for him, which is interesting because I'm split from his dad, and we don't spend Christmas together. He doesn't get to spend Christmas with me this year. He gets to spend Christmas and New Year with his dad. So whether that's a traumatic time for him, and there's going to be lots of triggers, we'll have to see. But yeah, that's interesting.
Is that every year?
But it has been I've had him for the last 3 years. But yeah.
Okay, that is interesting. So predominantly what I'd say about Pluto being here in Capricorn and as it being the fulcrum of every single planet attached to Pluto, I would say that the major defining characteristic of Pluto in Capricorn is this destruction of authority. So, so whether the authority is you because you happen to be mom, or more so authority being society, or authority being teachers that he doesn't respect, ultimate, or his father, or whoever it is that has the seat of power over him, he is going to want to destroy, rebel, and get
right. I'm in for a good life. No, that like, yeah. I don't mind him rebellion. It's not rebelling as long as he does it in an effective way. And exactly. But yeah, no, okay. So watch out January.
That's the one side of Pluto. The other side of Pluto that's a little bit more mature, and this of course will take a lot of guidance and maturing and age and time, is it is more so a transformative experience. So whereas he might say, this person, my boss, for example, let's say years down the line, he has an internship and his boss is being an asshole. He would say, my boss is an asshole, but he is, the one person who has a name that can really recommend me for my dream job. So he'll learn to play the game, but he won't do it to sacrifice his integrity while doing it. So other people might be okay with that, like, oh, I'll just suck up to him and like, who cares, I'll play the game. But he'll do it in such a way that it doesn't jeopardize his integrity. He'll do it in a way that still represents that, is still honest, but at the same time does have to undermine, the shithead boss because he's trying to rebel. So he's going to learn how to be, how to really maneuver. Hopefully we don't have to deal with like capitalism for too long, but he will learn how to maneuver capitalism.
Yes. Yes. He's always said he's going to be the boss, right? So I'm like, okay.
Yes, exactly.
So that will be very interesting. It'll be very, very interesting. So can I ask, because I'm looking at this, what do the red lines mean?
Yeah, great question. So the red lines are known as squares or oppositions, and oppositions are plainly so. They're 180 degrees apart from each other. Yeah. Again, we're looking at a circle, so it's 360 degrees. Each house is separated into 30 degrees, which is why there's 12 of them. Geometry, again. And so red lines are oppositions or they are squares, and squares are 90 degrees apart. Red lines are more so in traditional astrology, it's meant as a bad thing. However, I'm a modern astrologer, so my interpretation is actually that it's lines that enable a person to be a great problem solver. They have a lot of challenging discourse within their selves that they have to kind of meet themselves in the middle in order to proceed. So when I look at a person with a lot of red, it tells me that they're going to be really good problem solvers, and they'll be able to see, and it fits in with the duality of Libra, being able to see both sides and understand and argue either side, honestly. Yeah. But then at the end, you do meet in the middle, you do compromise, because if you don't, you're stuck in this stalemate and you can't move forward. And I think most people just want to move forward. So,
because I don't have many red lines.
No, you do not.
I just have like one big thick one.
Yep, you got technically you have like 3 oppositions to, or not even, it's really just the one opposition that's like a true opposition to, the opposition is between Jupiter and Saturn, and Jupiter is the planet of expansion and Saturn is the planet of restriction. So with you, there is both happening at once. In one way, you want to expand maybe creatively because it lies in the 5th house of creativity. And with Sagittarius, it's a lot of entrepreneurship attached to that. And on the other hand, you have the 11th house in Gemini, and there's a restriction on who you might know. So your network might not be as robust as you would like it to be in order for you to live out your entrepreneurial dreams. Because as you know, or as you might know, in order to be an entrepreneur, it really helps to have a strong network. Yeah. And so there's this push and pull dynamic that's kind of been happening since you were a kid.
Wow. Well, there we go, people. Wow, no, that's yes, that's just interesting. It's interesting stuff. So how can parents use this? And do you do I mean, it's just me and my son on this one, but do you do the children and mom and dad and the family dynamic? Do you try and so you do a whole big group, and then how do we use this to then? I mean, it's great to actually recognise times of the year when things might be a little bit crazy and busy, and you need to be, maybe more cognizant of it. But how else can you use it?
Other ways to use it is really to understand what types or what sides you might bring out in your child and what sides they bring out in you. In this example, it's hard to display it here, but if I just take notes, it should be relatively easy. So he's a stellium here. Okay. So we'll start with you because your chart's a little easier to read.
Mine doesn't look like a spider's web. Mine's like a triangle, basically.
Yes. So with you, it's what he brings out of you is an ability to think outside of the box. So there's because Uranus is here. And so, your tried and true methods of communication work. And he comes along with his, 25 degrees Libra, which is conjunct the Celi, which is this thick line here that begins the fourth house. And he brings in this unexpected fresh energy to your literal house. So when he's not there, it's, tried and true. It's, just a very normal day at the house. When he's not with you and he's with his dad, you just kind of, life is what it is. It's very normal-esque. Yep. And then he shows up and bam, it's chaos.
Yeah, that was his birth. But yeah, no. Mm-hmm. Yes, no, it is. But that's okay.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. And so he brings about this element of surprise, this chaos. And it's not always bad chaos. It's good to think outside of the box. It's good to be innovative, to run with ideas, and even indulge and encourage this, especially when children have no filter at this age. Just to kind of go with the whims of it all before society kind of tempts that down and says, no, stop saying everything that you're thinking. You have to filter it. So it actually can be a very fun time, especially with young children. But as you get older, it might actually just be, so he being a Libra will actually, activate within you how you were rebellious as a child.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting.
Because you'll kind of like compare your experiences like, oh, I was a rebel in this way. You're not really a rebel in this way. I wonder why that is. And then as you pull the thread, you'll understand, okay, we were raised differently. There's all sorts of different conditionings that were involved that are very different from how it is now and the way that you're raising him now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so other things that to note is that's just the sun, just from him being himself without any filter. His moon is in Scorpio, and you have also a moon in Scorpio. So you two share that, as well as the sun both being in Libra. So that's important as well. So he really knows you. Yeah. I mean, he really knows you. You really know him. And this is a double-edged sword. You can get under his skin just as much as he can.
Oh yes. This is the problem, I think, because we butt heads and we just know the buttons to push on each other. And there we go.
Yeah. So that's just something to be aware of. But you already knew that. It's just astrology confirming that. The other thing is that a huge difference that I do see between you two is that you have different rising signs. So you are a Leo rising, 11 degrees, and he is a Taurus rising, 9 degrees. And because they are so different, so your rising sign is basically you in neutral. You've woken up, you yawn, you haven't even drank water yet, you haven't spoken a word to anybody, you just naturally are being. and that is Leo. And so naturally there's like a, what's the word? It's like a creative spirit, but it's also like people often equate Leo to like royalty and showiness, but I always think of it as more of a leadership quality. So it's more so that like right from the jump, at any given moment, you're probably pretty good at crisis. You're ready to go do something. You're ready to go lead something.
Yeah.
So even if someone captures you like right after a nap, for example, and there's like an emergency at work, you're like, okay, I can do it. And it's very quick, like to do it, to be the doer. Whereas he's
not.
Kind of very different from that. Yeah. In his natural state, he's Taurus, and Taurus is not quick to do things.
Right. Yes.
So when he wakes up from a nap, you got to give him like at least half an hour, or very least, I would even say an hour, and you would be safe. For him to like really build up the momentum to go do something. So
yeah, he's not a morning person. He definitely is not a morning person in no stretch of the imagination. He likes to lounge around, takes a leisurely breakfast, chills out, gets dressed last. Yeah, it's horrendous.
Yep. So as you know this as a parent, it's so helpful because you now know, okay, if we have to be at a doctor's office by this time, I'm going to tell him that it's actually this time, and then we'll make it there on time because I've hedged for the fact that he's very slow and he moves at a different pace than I do.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, it's, you just, that's one of the things that I think would make parenting a lot easier to understand, how each child operates. And then how to run your house. Of course, this is all very much unpaid labor, and I applaud you for taking this internship. Parenting is like an internship.
So do you also help the parents communicate better together?
Yes.
To enable them to communicate with their children? Because I find this fascinating, and a lot of the things that you've said, I go, oh yeah, actually, pick that one up. Yes. Yeah. So, is there things in Oscar's chart that I could go, oh, he's very good at this, and therefore I should encourage him to do X and maybe not so much Y?
Yeah, definitely. I would say kind of like backtracking to that slight maybe question that was kind of forming was a good way to communicate. In your case specifically, because you both have Libra Mercury. Yeah. It's important to actually, you don't have Libra Mercury, you have Virgo Mercury. An important piece to think about, your Mercury. So Mercury is about communication. It's also about thinking. So the way that you think is very organized and rather pragmatic, which is why I explained that you get to the point in a way that is very clear. And if anything, has a neutral tone to it. So it's very matter of fact. There's no like emotionality to it because why would there be? You need to get something done. So, so I wouldn't say that you're I'm sure you can write persuasive copy, but in your line of work, you're really just there to be the logistics person.
Get stuff done.
Yes, to get stuff done. So there's no emotionality needed, really. If anything, emotionality gets in the way of getting things done some of the time. Yeah. So in his case, he has Mercury Libra, which is different because Mercury Libra is more about considering another person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So knowing that your son is constantly thinking of another person or thinking about how another person might want to receive their communication, you might want to either reflect that back to him or acknowledge that I understand that you're trying to figure out what I'm thinking, but I just really need to know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Like, let's focus on you. And once that happens, it gives permission to, for Oscar to really be like, oh, I don't have to naturally think about what you're going to think about what I'm about to say. And then it mitigates this idea because generally Libras have a slight like a challenge within them that they would like to please others. And it's not because they are necessarily people pleasers, but because the nature of Libra is to be diplomatic. It is to make sure that you accommodate another person because it is the ruler of the seventh house, which is one-to-one relationships. So generally we want our relationships to be copacetic, if not, lovely. And so with that, you do have to bite your tongue some of the time and be polite and have a filter. But if you don't have a filter, that's an issue. So Mercury here in the fifth house, I would say that whenever you're trying to communicate with him, bring it back to the lens of, what is it that you like to do? What about this situation is fun? What about this, even if it's not fun, what about this situation allows you to have fun in the future? So let's say he doesn't want to clean his room. All right, he doesn't want to organize his room. You could say something like, we're going to have people come over. How would you want so-and-so to see your room in this state? You could say that. So that way it includes this perspective that he's looking at constantly, which is how do other people experience me as
perceive me, experience me.
Perceive me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there is that. Without guilting them, of course. But it's just truly posing the question in a neutral way that explains, or like, how might your room not being organized, how does that prevent you from, I don't know, playing with your toys? If all your clothes are everywhere, where do you have space to do your puzzle?
Yeah. Yeah.
So speaking truly to that joy piece can also help to communicate more challenging aspects, especially now that he's still young.
Yeah, and it's fascinating you say that. It sounds like something so trivial, but he wants his ear pierced. He's 8, for God's sake, but he wants his ears pierced, one ear pierced. He's made it very clear, but he's wanted it for some time, but he didn't know how to tell me because he was like, oh, I didn't want you to be upset. And I'm like, I'm not upset at all. Yeah. Thank God it's just your ear, right? Like, and so, it could have been a whole lot worse. But, so it's quite funny how he's always, and he considers people at school quite a bit. It's one of the things that I get fed back for his teachers is he's a very empathetic child. And so always wanting to include people and make sure they're involved in everything. So that's interesting. Wow. So look, Babs, if people want to get in contact with you and have their charts done, just like I've done mine, how do people get in contact with you?
So my website is babscheung.com. It'll be provided in the show notes. And I have this specific reading is called What the F is Going On with My Kids, also shortened to WTF IGO with my kids. So it'll be very clear on my menu which one that is if you're interested. It is interesting to note that this also covers sibling compatibility as well, or sibling activation, as I call it. So if you have more than one child and you wonder if they're going to ever make peace with one another, or, maybe they'll be, mortal enemies within your house, but maybe as soon as they move apart, they become best of friends, that can also be covered within this reading. So we cover all of the family dynamics, just ways in which to navigate this harsh parent.
And are you on the socials, the Facebook, Insta, and all of that? So if people want to actually come and look at your Instagram and Facebook and stuff, they can dive into those worlds.
Yep, those are easy too. It's just at Babs Cheung, babs.cheung, and then LinkedIn is Babs Cheung with a hyphen between. And I'm very easy to search.
Yes.
I rank very high.
Do a bit of a search. Yes, no, exactly. So look, just one final question for you. What is a piece of advice that you've been given that you still use today? I'm asking all my guests so I can sort of find out some good nuggets from you guys.
Piece of advice that I was... So the biggest piece of advice I've ever been given was leave room for surprise. So as a person that obviously reads astrology charts and is intuitive and can kind of pick up different things about people, I'm highly observant in that way. I always leave room for a surprise, because a person may not be showing me all of them. They can't possibly show me all of them. And even with the idea of the sun sign astrology, the reason why I think it's mostly rubbish is because the way I interpret sun signs is it's us showing our best selves. It's us on our best day. And it's very rare that we meet people on their best day. It takes multiple best days for us to be our best self. So everything has to be going right for like 2 or more days in order for you to be even your best self. And so for me, I personally am like, sun sign doesn't really matter. I care more about your rising sign because I know, okay, in your natural state, you, for example, Leo rising, I know that you'll get shit done somehow.
Somehow. I don't know how I get shit done, but I do.
Right. And that's more important to me than, the
lazy Taurus, like my son, who needs an hour to get up in the morning.
It's more important to me to know this than like your Libra sun sign. Like, it's great because I can wish you happy birthday, but how often do you present yourself as like, oh yeah, I'm calm, collected. I am great at communication, and I'm, of course I know you're considerate, but like, how often do we really see all those parts of Libra within you if you're not having your best day? So leave room for surprise.
No. Okay, fantastic. Look, Babs, thanks ever so much for coming on the podcast. It's been an eye-opener for me. It's definitely been an eye-opener for me. And I've never had a chart reading like that. So thank you for taking the time and digesting and cogitating mine and Oscar's chart. It's helping me to parent my son potentially. Watch out January is what it's telling me every blooming year. So that'll be fantastic.
And take many vacations when you can, because it's aligned.
Yeah. Follow the winter. Follow the winter sun or the summer sun, wherever you are in the world. Look, thank you again. And let's hope some other people get on board and do some charts.
Yeah, I'll be waiting. I mean, I'm here for you as your supporting astrologer. I'm here for you.
Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast and you would like to hear more, please hit subscribe wherever you like to hear podcasts. If you would like to support us further, share this episode with your friends and family. And finally, drop us a review on iTunes, as I'd love to hear your thoughts, comments and ideas. It all helps me to understand and produce awesome content you want to hear just like this. If you want to check out our past episodes, write to us, appear on the podcast, or for links, resources and show notes, go to our website www.strongsingleandhuman.com. We are also on all the usual social media platforms, Insta, Facey and Twitter. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I hope to see you back here again soon. Be kind to yourself, and remember, no one is perfect. We're all just putting one foot in front of the other and doing our best. I'm Claire Martin, and you've been listening to the Strong, Single and Human podcast.